Are you planning a trip to Banff and feeling overwhelmed by the questions piling up? You're not alone. In today's episode, I'm answering the most common questions travelers ask about Banff, Jasper, and the surrounding parks, from shuttles and hikes to weather, packing, and wildlife. If you've wondered it, chances are someone else has too. Before we dive in, I want to quickly let you know about my upcoming live Banff trip planning session happening on October 8th. This is a 90-minute session where I'll walk you through how to plan your Banff trip step by step and answer your questions live. It's perfect if you want expert guidance and peace of mind before your trip. You can grab your spot at banfftravelplanning.com/live. I don't know about you, but this summer has felt like a whirlwind, and here we are getting ready for school to start already. I had originally planned a full episode on the Icefields Parkway, but I just didn't have time to get it ready. Then I realized this was a great chance to do something I've wanted to do for a while, an FAQ episode, because trust me, I get asked hundreds of questions every week, and many of them come up again and again. So today I'm pulling together the top 20 questions I hear most often, plus a bonus lightning round at the end with even more questions I know are on your mind. The first set of questions I get asked quite frequently are general planning questions like, when is the best time to visit Banff? Now, this will totally depend on what you want. Do you want to come in the summer for hiking, winter for skiing, fall for golden larches, or the spring for a quiet shoulder season? If you look back through my episodes, you'll find one on each of the months since I've starting in April, and I'll continue to do those every month so you can dive deeper into what that month is going to be like. Or you can head back to episode 4, and that fully answers this question. Number 2, how many days do I need to see Banff? And Jasper? I usually recommend 5 to 7 days for Banff alone, and 7 to 10 days if you're including Jasper. You can absolutely visit in less time, but more days gives you more flexibility and lets you go at a slower pace. Number 3, should I stay in Banff or Canmore? Or Jasper, Lake Louise? Banff is the most central, and it gives you the easiest access to shuttles and tours. Nearby Canmore offers more affordable lodging, but a little extra driving time each day. A night or two in Lake Louise can reduce some of that driving if you are visiting Yoho National Park or spending a day on the Icefields Parkway. Now, you absolutely can visit all of the places by staying just in Canmore or Banff, so I wouldn't waste too much time changing hotels, especially if you're only coming for 5 to 7 days. If you are headed up to Jasper, I recommend minimum 1 night, but 2 nights is better, or even more. You'll arrive after a long day on the Icefields Parkway, and there's so much more to explore around there. Number 4, do I need a rental car or can I visit without one? For sure, a car is the easiest and most flexible way to get around, but you can absolutely visit car-free using shuttles, Roam Transit, and tours. It will really just depend what you have on your itinerary. You'll want to check out episode 9, where I talk all about visiting Banff without a car. Number 5, how do I plan an itinerary that includes Banff, Jasper, Yoho, and Kootenay? This is where most travelers get overwhelmed. My pre-built itineraries will help simplify this. Whether you have 3, 7, or 10 days, I've got you covered with routes that are laid out logically so you aren't wasting extra time driving or backtracking. The most important thing to know is that you should be grouping your activities for each of the areas. Make sure you know what your must-dos are and then some optional activities or backup activities for each day. If you just aren't sure which activities are in which area and are close together, I highly recommend my Banff cheat sheets, which explains all of this. I'll link to that in the show notes. All right, the next big topic that I get the vast majority of questions around are transportation and shuttles. Number 6, how do I get to Moraine Lake now that personal vehicles aren't allowed? You need to use a Parks Canada shuttle, Roam Transit, or a private shuttle or tour. Now, when I say a private shuttle or tour, I don't mean that you need to pay to go just yourself, but more one that is privately operated. I've got a whole episode dedicated to which Moraine Lake shuttle you should take, so head on over to episode 3 for that one. Number 7, do I need to book the Parks Canada shuttle in advance? Yes, the answer is yes. They sell out quickly. Reservations open in April, and I always suggest booking as soon as you can. Now, you can still get shuttle reservations throughout the season, especially if you're planning a last-minute trip. They do release a portion of those Parks Canada shuttle tickets on a 48-hour rolling basis throughout the summer, but it's just a little more risky to leave it last minute. So if you have the opportunity, I say book it as soon as those reservations open. Number 8, what are my options if the shuttles are sold out? This is where you really want to look at the private operators like Canmore Travel, Moraine Lake Bus Company, Via Moraine, or Fairview Limo. There are some really great full-day tour options offered by companies like Explore Banff and Rad Ventures. Of these tour operators and shuttle operators, they do offer different types of tours, and specifically to the shuttles, they offer different times like sunrise or some that allow for hiking. So you really do need to know how you want to spend your time at the lake so you can choose the shuttle that fits your trip best. Number 9, can I get between Lake Louise and Moraine Lake if I park at Lake Louise Lakeshore? No. The short answer is no. If you happen to get lucky getting parking at Lake Louise, that's great. But unfortunately, you can't park there and get on a shuttle to Moraine Lake. There are a few exceptions to this, like if you've booked a Parks Canada Alpine Start shuttle, which is at 4 and 5 a.m., or if you're staying at the Fairmont Chateau Lake Louise or at the Paradise Lodge, then you do have the option of taking the Lake Connector shuttle from Lake Louise to Moraine Lake, but that isn't necessarily because you're parking there, it's because you're within walking distance. For the rest of the Parks Canada shuttles, your shuttle journey needs to originate at the Lake Louise Ski Resort. And if you're taking Rome from Banff and you have purchased a super pass so you can use the Parks Canada Lake Connector shuttle from Lake Louise to Moraine Lake, your journey also has to start in Banff on Rome Route 8X. I recognize that's all a little confusing and that's a really short answer, but it's just really important to know that when you book your shuttle with Parks Canada, it leaves from the Lake Louise Ski Resort unless you're on the Alpine Start shuttle. Number 10, is there public transit between Banff and Lake Louise or Jasper? Absolutely. As I just mentioned, Rome Transit Route 8X runs from Banff to Lake Louise. Now, unfortunately, there's no public bus up to Jasper. For that, you'll need a car or something like Sundog Tours to get from Banff to Jasper. Moving on to our next category, hikes and outdoor activities. So number 11 in our list of questions is, what are the best easy hikes for beginners or families? There's a lot of really great options for easy hikes. Johnston Canyon, Tunnel Mountain, Johnson Lake, Stewart Canyon, Grassy Lakes, and Canmore are all great. And I've got a whole episode 16, on easy hikes in Banff. Number 12, what are the must-do hikes for more experienced hikers? From Lake Louise, I'd do Lake Agnes and Big Beehive or the Plain of Six Glaciers. Larch Valley from Moraine Lake is a beautiful hike. If you want some more remote options, consider doing Eiffel Lake to Wangchemna Pass or adding on Sentinel Pass to Larch Valley. In Yoho National Park, Iceline is great, and in Kootenay, I'd recommend Stanley Glacier. If you have time to go to Kananaskis, there are so many great hiking options there as well. Obviously, this barely scratches the surface of the hiking you can do here, so keep an eye for a future episode where I'll dive deeper into the best hiking options. Number 13. Which hikes offer the best chances to see wildflowers in the summer or those golden larches in September? Wildflowers peak sometime between mid-July to early August. For wildflower hikes, I recommend Healy Pass just outside the town of Banff at Sunshine Village, or along the Icefields Parkway, Parker Ridge, and Helen Lake. But in all honesty, you're probably going to see some wildflowers on most hikes. They just won't have large meadows of wildflowers. For larch trees turning that golden color, you really need to be here around the third week of September to late September. Larch Valley from Moraine Lake is one of the most popular, or an easier option is Ptarmigan Cirque in Kananaskis. If you want to explore some less busy larch hikes, I'm going to link my larch hiking post in the show notes. Number 14 is a question that comes up over and over and over again. Do I need to carry bear spray? Yes. If you're doing any hiking, then you should carry bear spray, know how to use it, and hike in groups when possible. If you're wondering if this applies to easy hikes too, the answer is yes. You just don't know where you'll encounter a bear. and you should be responsible for your own safety. Continuing on with the outdoor activities, number 15, can I bike the Bow Valley Parkway or Moraine Lake Road? Yes, you absolutely can. The Bow Valley Parkway and the Icefields Parkway are both very popular road cycling routes. If you're big into road cycling and are used to riding on the roads with vehicles, anytime, spring through fall is great. For the rest of us, the best time to bike the Bow Valley Parkway is when a section of it is closed to vehicle traffic in the spring and the fall. Then you'll have a section of the road that's completely vehicle free. You can bike Moraine Lake Road as well, but just know that you'll be sharing the road with a continuous flow of shuttles and buses going back and forth on a narrow road with no shoulder. I personally prefer to bike this road right before it opens on June 1st, but I know this isn't an option for everyone, so please just take caution if you do decide to bike that road. And of course, don't forget your bear spray for any of those rides. Moving on to weather and seasonal conditions. Number 16, what's the weather like in Banff in any given month? Everyone always wants to know what the weather will be like. I get it. We all want perfect weather on our holidays. Unfortunately, mountain weather is unpredictable and it changes quickly, so it's really hard for me to tell you what the weather is going to be like when you come here. I can give some rough guesses on what it typically is like, but it could be different every year. And that just makes it all the more important to be prepared for different kinds of weather. Now, you probably thought you were going to get through this entire episode without me saying this, but I recommend you bring layers for every month. Number 17, are trails and lakes still frozen in May or June? Yep, many high elevation lakes stay frozen into June. You'll find the lakes closer to Banff, like Johnson Lake, Two Jack, Lake Minnewanka, will be thawed before then. But you can also expect trails to be a mix of mud, ice, and snow even into early June, especially at higher elevations. And you do need to be aware of any avalanche danger before going out on your hike. Again, this is one of those things where some years Lake Louise is completely thawed before the end of May, and sometimes it's not till later. You just never know what you're going to get. Our next category is talking a little bit more about those iconic sites. Number 18, how much time should I spend at Lake Louise and Moraine Lake? I would plan 2 to 4 hours at each lake, depending on whether you're just walking the shoreline or hiking. Because there are so many different options of what you can do at the lakes between canoeing, shoreline walks, or hiking, I've covered this in detail in episode 10, which will go through and help you figure out exactly how much time you need at Lake Louise and Moraine Lake. Number 19, if you had to choose one lake cruise, Minnewanka or Moline, which would it be? If you're only going to do one, I'd choose Moline Lake Cruise. The views are incredible, and I love that you get off the boat for a walk near Spirit Island. It's a really wonderful experience. Don't get me wrong, I still really enjoy the Minnewanka cruise, and I think it does some things really great. Like the stories and history of Lake Minnewanka are pretty interesting, and they have other options like a beer cruise or a junior explorer cruise. But if you're only choosing one, then I recommend Moline. Just make sure to book it in advance, especially in those peak summer months. And for our final question, 20, is the Ice Explorer worth it, and what time should you plan it for? Now, this also depends on you. It is a little touristy, I'm not going to lie. But if you've never been on a glacier, this is going to be completely new to you. And even the ride on the giant Ice Explorers is a fun experience. Now, there are some alternatives like the Ice Odyssey, which offers a smaller group tour, or you can also book a guided glacier hike for something more adventurous. As for the timing, the Columbia Icefield Adventure takes about 2.5 hours. So you need to figure out how far you need to drive depending on if you're staying in Canmore or Lake Louise, and if you're going to do any stops in advance along the Icefields Parkway. All right, now it's time for a little rapid fire round with some of the other common questions I get. So I'm going to give the question and just a really short, quick answer for it. Do I need to pre-book attractions? Yes. For the Banff Gondola, Columbia Icefield Adventure, and even some of the restaurants, if you're coming in peak summer season, I highly recommend booking those in advance. Even if you're coming in September, it tends to stay busy enough that you're going to at least want to keep an eye on the date and time you want to go. And if things start booking out, you are going to want to get your time booked. especially if there's a specific time or day that you wanted to go. What about some accessible ideas, places to go for people that are in a wheelchair or are mobility challenged? Absolutely. Banff Avenue is a great place to walk, though it can get a little bit busy. The Lake Minnewanka boat cruise is wheelchair accessible, and scenic drives are absolutely perfect. The Lake Louise lakeshore is flat and wide trail, so that's going to be doable. The town of Banff has some lovely walking paths. Takaka Falls is wheelchair accessible. You can even head to Emerald Lake and do part of the Lakeshore Trail, just the one half to the bridge at the back. So there's a lot of really great options for anyone who can't do long walks or wants to keep it to easy, short walks. Can you walk from Lake Louise campground to the lake? Yes, you can. There are trails you can take up to the lakeshore. Just make sure you bring your bear spray. Should I bring my paddleboard? Paddleboarding the lakes is the perfect summer activity. Just be aware of the clean, drain, dry requirements, and you are required to have a personal flotation device. Where to get picnic food? Grocery stores in Banff or Canmore are perfect if you want to get some food to take out. JK Bakery in Canmore makes great sandwiches, or the Trailhead Cafe in Lake Louise is another great place to stop. What's a quieter alternative to Lake Louise and Moraine Lake? Honestly, most easy to get to lakes like Minnewanka, Bow, Emerald Lake are still going to be extremely busy. If you're able to, you'll find a much more serene lake if you have to hike to it. What about toilets? You're going to find toilets. Most major trailheads have them. You're not going to find them at every small trailhead, but they're not very hard to find. Yes, they're probably going to be pit toilets, but if you have to go, you got to go. Can we swim in the lakes? You can swim in the lakes in Banff National Park, but just be aware that they're icy cold. Your warmest option is going to be Johnson Lake. Which gondola to choose? Now here I'm going to suggest you head over to episode 7 where I go into the details of all of the gondolas, but the short of it is Banff Gondola for dining and views, Sunshine Gondola for alpine hiking, Mount Norquay chairlift for a quieter experience and a great lunch option, and Lake Louise has beautiful views and makes a great combo with those other nearby activities. What about canoeing alternatives? Emerald Lake is a little less busy and a little cheaper than Louise or Moraine, but one really great canoeing alternative that I love is the Banff Canoe Club right in the town of Banff for a cheaper option. Wildlife spotting, what are the best places? The Bow Valley Parkway, Icefields Parkway, Lake Minnewanka Scenic Drive, and Jasper are all great places to go for a scenic drive and do some wildlife spotting. Just make sure to keep your distance. Final question. Do I need to bring cash? You definitely don't need a lot of cash. You're going to find credit and debit cards are widely accepted here. You can carry a little bit of cash for the tea houses or for some tips. The tea houses do take credit cards, but it's not super reliable, so I always say having a small amount of cash on hand is good. The easiest way to get some Canadian cash is really just go to an ATM and take some out when you're here. And that wraps up today's big FAQ episode. I know that was a lot of information, but hopefully it answers a bunch of those one-off questions, or maybe it brought up a whole bunch of other questions. If you'd like more support, join my free private Facebook group, Travel to Banff, which I'll link to in the show notes. We've got over 72,000 members sharing questions, updates, and local advice every single day, and it's the best place to get real, timely help. And don't forget, my live Banff trip planning session is happening October 8th. If you want me to personally walk you through building your itinerary and answer your questions live, grab your spot at banfftravelplanning.com/live. Thanks for listening, and until next time, happy trip planning. I'll see you out on the trails.